9867. Next up, we have my good friend, Eric Seidel. Eric's been around a while. I remember when Eric was on TV, and you see Eric helping people. See, that's the thing about it. When you see people in their normal workaday life, and what they're doing is helping people, those are special people, and you never forget them. So years and years and years later, you kind of say, oh yeah, I remember that guy because I saw him on TV, and every time I saw him, he was helping people. So he is still in the helping people business, and Eric's gonna introduce himself, tell you who he is, and what he's running for, and hopefully he can get you to vote for him. Eric.
Yes, thank you, Eddie and Gabriel. Many of the listeners out here may remember me. I was the consumer lawyer on Fox 13 for almost 20 years, from 1991 through 2010. And what I did, you're right, Eddie. I mean, I took calls, I took emails. This is before emails, so I was taking calls and I was taking letters. And some of those letters were hard to read because people's problems, I mean, I just had no idea. It was an eye-opener when I started the job in 1991, to just the problems in people's lives and how they've built up. And sometimes how they let one problem build up after another until it was just catastrophic. So it took a while to unwind all that. I mean, it will start with something small like a bill being owed, and then it ends up with, like, my husband passed away and now they're foreclosing on the house and the car, I can't drive it. It just would get crazier and crazier until you realize these people were on the verge of giving up. So the important thing is to really handle things as they happen, and I tried to express that to people, and then of course I would come in after the fact and try to rectify the whole situation. Well, I did that for 20 years, and I was always an attorney, so I was able to bring that legal expertise to it, if you will. And my title was the consumer lawyer, so people remember me as consumer lawyer Eric Seidel on Fox 13. And my name almost became like a household word. They said, I'm going to call Eric Seidel, right?
Yeah.
That kind of thing. And it's great. And then as the internet came along, I started to lean more and more onto my legal practice, and I've done that for the last 5 years. And you'll notice more people are leaving television. All my old colleagues, John Wilson and Denise White and everybody are gone, and they're all either retired or they moved on. And you see that it's time for the young kids. They're hiring lower priced talent, and I mean,
just saying.
No, not on the radio. I'm not talking about radio. But television, if you notice, if you watch TV, I mean, it's not what it used to be, and it's not anybody's fault. It is technology. TV is where radio was when TV came along. We have the internet now, and we're leaving TV behind, and whatever it can provide is good. But local news, I mean, young folks these days all go online onto their iPhones, better yet, or onto their smartphones, and look for the weather or the sports or the news, and that's and that's only technology. But anyway, that's my history. So now I was in doing my own private practice, and then now with McIntyre Law Firm for the last 5 years. And I was looking to give back, do some more public service, give back to the community, and I started to hear a lot of issues that were circulating around the clerk of court. And that's how I came to be a candidate for Hillsborough Clerk of Court. So I am the only candidate. I'm actually running as the Republican because we have a Democratic candidate who's been there for several terms. And there are several issues. I started to hear about my fellow lawyers having some issues with filing, and judges with receiving the court files in time for trials to start even. Just to explain what the clerk of the court does, and I think maybe that would be the best thing to do, because a little civics lesson. There are 5 constitutional officers in most counties here in Florida. You have your sheriff, the clerk of court, which I'm running for, tax collector, property appraiser, and supervisor of elections. These are the 5 what they call constitutional officers, and they are partisan races. So you will see a Republican sheriff or a Democratic supervisor of election like we have. It's almost split down the lines. We have a Republican, like I said, a tax collector, but at the same time we have a Democratic property appraiser, and those people have to work together to make sure your property is appraised properly, and then you get the right tax bill at the end of the year. So once you become a constitutional officer, in my opinion, and I think in almost any right-thinking person's opinion, there's no room for politics at that point. You cannot say, if you're the sheriff, I'm going to arrest Democrats because I'm a Republican. You know, it just does not work.
Right.
So
Right.
yeah, so you've got to be objective at that point. And obviously, you know, I am consider myself very objective in this situation. I am, however, an attorney, so I understand all the documents that get filed at the clerk's office. And I don't think we've had an attorney clerk in many decades. I've gone back all the way in my mind and in other people's minds, and we cannot find an attorney who was clerk. And in my thoughts, that really is important, because you need to know what's being filed there. It's all the lawsuits, it's everything legal for the county, people's title, people's birth certificates, any appeals, any judgments, any liens, all of that gets filed at the clerk's office. The clerk also keeps all those records, provides them when needed. You have to keep them safely. The clerk is where you will go to get a marriage license, a passport. It's also the CFO for the entire county. Now, in saying that, a lot of people go, oh, so you make the budget. No, what the CFO does is the county commission decides what to spend money on, and then the clerk of the court, as the CFO, writes the check. So basically, all the salaries for anybody in the county are paid by the clerk of court. We deliver the mail. They do everything for the county offices. It is a basket of services that all the other constitutionals cannot do, or are not able to do. It goes to the clerk's office. The clerk also is in charge of investing all your taxpayer dollars. So we have a huge multi-billion-dollar income in taxes, and I think it's very important that we play very safe with that money. You don't want to be going after, and this is all the experience I have as the consumer lawyer, you don't want to be chasing after some great interest rate, hoping that you're going to help the people in the county with this great interest rate. Then, God forbid, something happens and your money isn't accessible, or the investment tanks. So I think it's very important that we keep money in reserve to help people. If there's a disaster, a natural disaster like a hurricane, like we almost had hitting this county, and we all know how FEMA is late on those funds very often,
Oh, yeah.
we may need the money to help unfortunate folks in our community. Services, rescue, all of those things. We should have some liquidity in that process. So in my view, we want some liquidity first. We do not want to ever sacrifice our capital, our balance, or play any type of games with that. And then third, we can look at interest rates. So I'm a very much of a conservative with your taxpayer dollars, but I think it's really just a smart plan, and it's something that I've always advised on TV. Especially as you get older, you don't want to take risks. When you're younger and you have plenty of money and you got a good income, well, maybe you want to take a few chances with getting a high interest rate. But to play conservative when you're dealing with other people's money, and certainly with something as important as your tax dollars. The clerk's office, very interestingly, is not supported by tax dollars. It's supported by all the fees that people pay. So yeah, and there's plenty of fees. You know, lawyers like us, when we go to file a lawsuit,
Right.
there, you know, we tell everybody, hey, look, there's going to be a fee even if we do this for free. There's a fee to file. There's a fee for this. There's a fee for that. Collection of judgment. There's fees, and those go to the clerk of the court to run the operation. There are 730 employees of the clerk's office. So there are many clerks in courtrooms. Those are the people that take the evidence, write down the results of the trial, preserve things for appeal. There's a whole evidence department where when you turn the gun or the drugs or whatever over in the courtroom to the clerk, that goes to the clerk, and we have a chain of custody to make sure that that's preserved, because, hey, God forbid, if somehow that chain of custody is broken, well, somebody's life is in the balance, whether it's being put away or going free when they should or shouldn't, whatever. So that's another thing. As the consumer lawyer, I realize that all the documents that are filed at the clerk's office are people's lives. We're dealing with sometimes life or death when we're talking about, you know, someone going to jail or a prison, but also just about anything there is affecting somebody's life, whether it's a bankruptcy, a family law case. We do domestic violence injunctions, and that's where you go, not the police. You go to the clerk's office if you feel your spouse or your significant other is abusing you and physically, and you want to get an injunction. Well, that's where you go, and it's very important that we are available to do those things. So, what are my plans? What's my platform? Very simply, customer service. Make sure that when you go there, when you go to the clerk's office, you don't get in a long line like you do now, get to the end of the line and find out you're in the wrong line. We need a greeter there. It's as simple as when you go to the mobile phone store. Somebody greets you and asks how we can help you. That's what we need, and we need plenty of those at all points of customer interaction. Number two, the technology. the website. We're living in the internet age. We should be able to access everything online. We're not. There are many forms that are not available. Did you know you can't pay your traffic tickets online? That's a major function of the clerk's office. Now, at this point, we should be in the smartphone age. We all have phones we carry around. We should be able to pay our parking tickets, our speeding tickets, anything like that using our smartphone, right?